One introduction: Rosep view the United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building, for just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove, and International Convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosep view purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary. Episode 57 DZ March 7th, 2025. France and Germany are more self-sufficient on defense. In episode 57 DZ 1A, United States, Trump blocking a clean energy transition. 1B, United States, the Trump administration is preparing to deport the 240,000 Ukrainians who fled the Russian attacks on Ukraine and have temporary legal status in the United States. 2, Wisconsin, the Tesla company of Elon Musk is contesting a Wisconsin state decision to block Telsa from opening dealerships in apparent retaliation. Musk is pouring money into a Wisconsin Supreme Court race against Susan Crawford, who is a future Wisconsin Supreme Court justice, may rule against Tesla when and if Musk appeals the Tesla dealership block in Wisconsin to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. 3, French President Emmanuel Macron has repeatedly drummed home the message that Europe must be more self-sufficient on defense main content. 1A, United States, Trump blocking a clean energy transition. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, the New York Times Climate Forward newsletter, March 6, 2025. Trump and the energy transition. The head-spinning moves by the Trump administration that are undermining the government ability to combat climate change. Trump policies are promoting fossil fuels and reducing support for clean energy investments. Under Biden, there was the broad shift away from fossil fuels and toward clean power had been racing ahead. Spending on clean energy in the United States topped $280 billion in 2023, up from about $200 billion in 2020. Many of these investments were encouraged by laws passed during the Biden administration, but much of the activity is simply a function of market dynamics as the price of clean energy comes down and demand for solar, wind, and batteries grows. Put differently, not even the White House can fully control the pace of the energy transition. Some of the Trump moves may slow the pace of change. Trump is unlikely to stop clean energy implementation completely. The Trump fast-tracking of approvals for new natural gas plants and moves to slow construction of new wind farms risk blunting that momentum. The economics of clean energy have never been better. Costs for building new solar and wind installations have fallen significantly in recent years, and once clean energy systems are in place, they are generally very cheap to maintain. Much of the clean energy momentum is being driven by private industry rather than federal policy. Will they kill the direction from fossil to clean? They cannot really do that. They can make a mess of things, and they are doing that. They can slow things down, but they cannot kill it. Electricity demand. One big reason renewables like wind and solar are expected to keep growing. The United States needs them after years of relatively stable power demand. The United States appetite for electricity is growing fast, driven by the proliferation of data centers and the electrification of the transportation sector, and buildings. Companies and grid operators are looking not only to gas and coal, but also wind, solar, and nuclear power. Electric vehicles and China electric vehicles are another industry already feeling the effects of the Trump policies. EV sales are still growing in the United States, although more slowly than they were a couple years ago. Trump, who has threatened to eliminate a tax credit for EV buyers and stop the federal funding of new charging stations, is putting a damper on the momentum, but car makers have invested billions of dollars planning for a future where the internal combustion engine is a thing of the past. In the long term, the move to EVs seems pretty inevitable, and if the Trump moves do delay the energy transition in the United States, they are unlikely to slow it down for the rest of the world. Other countries are racing ahead with their plans to to deploy large amounts of wind and solar, and if the United States steps back from its efforts to become a leader in the renewables industry. China, which has already established itself as the biggest supplier of solar panels and electric vehicles in the world, will be there to pick up the slack. The world will just go on without us. Other climate news excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, the New York Times, March 6, 2025. Climate groups were counting on $20 billion. Trump will not let them access it. The Justice Department and FBI are investigating $20 billion in climate funds despite a decision by a top prosecutor that there was not sufficient evidence of wrongdoing. U.S. State Department shuts down pollution monitoring abroad. Since 2008, embassies and other diplomatic posts have been publishing data about local air quality in many countries. It was the only reliable source of such information. Most contaminated U.S. nuclear site is set to be the largest solar farm. Plans to transform Hanford, which was integral to the United States nuclear arsenal after World War II, had just begun inching forward when President Trump started his second term. The United States is withdrawing from the Just Energy Transition Partnership, a collaboration between richer nations to help developing countries transition from coal to cleaner energy. New York State climate goals, which were already under strain, could be hurt more by the Trump tariffs against Canada. 1B United States Substack letters from an American, excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization, Heather Cox Richardson, March 7, 2025. This morning it is reported that the Trump administration is preparing to deport the 240,000 Ukrainians who fled the Russian attacks on Ukraine and have temporary legal status in the United States. This is cruelty to show Putin he has a new American ally. The Trump turn away from traditional European alliances and toward Russia will have profound effects on U.S. standing in the world. There are United States State Department plans to close a dozen consulates, mostly in Western Europe, including consulates in Florence, Italy, Strasbourg, France, Hamburg, Germany, and Ponta Delgada, Portugal, as well as a consulate in Brazil and another in Turkey. Trump wants to shrink the State Department and to change its mission from diplomacy and soft power initiatives that advance democracy and human rights to focusing on transactional agreements with other governments and promoting foreign investment. In the U.S., Musk plans to cut the State Department budget by 20% and cut some of the 80,000 employees of the State Department. Edward Coreystein of Doge is embedded at the State Department. China now has more global diplomatic posts than the U.S. already. In 2025, about 700 employees, including 450 career diplomats, have resigned from the State Department. U.S. intelligence officers are some embassy officers who monitor terrorism, infectious disease, trade, commerce, militaries, and government. Traditional U.S. allies are concerned Trump will share classified intelligence with Russia, thus exposing the identities of their operatives. They are considering new protocols for sharing information with the United States. The Five Eyes alliance between Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the U.S. has been formidable since World War II and has been key to countering first the Soviet Union and then Russia. Allied governments are now considering withholding information about sources or analyses from the U.S. A CBS News/YouGov poll from February 26 to 28 showed that only 4% of the American people sided with Russia in its ongoing war with Ukraine. The unpopularity of Trump policies is starting to show. The National Republican Congressional Committee chair told House Republicans on Tuesday, March 4, 2025, to stop holding town halls after several such events have turned raucous as attendees complained about the course of the Trump administration. Musk has claimed to have found billions of dollars of waste or fraud in the government, instead of showing great savings. Claims of Doge reveal just how poorly Musk and his team understand the work of the federal government. After forcing employees out of their positions, they have had to hire back individuals who are in fact crucial to the nation, including the people guarding the U.S. nuclear stockpile. Doge and Trump are trying to shut down advanced medical research, especially cancer research. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, told reporters that Musk told the senators he would create a system where members of Congress can call some central group to get cuts they dislike reversed. The Constitution gives Congress alone the power to make appropriations and pass the laws that decide how money is spent. Later, Musk met with House Republicans and offered to set up a similar way for the members of the House Oversight Doge Subcommittee to reach him. When representatives complained about the random cuts that were so upsetting constituents, Musk defended mistakes of Doge by saying that he cannot bat 1,000 all the time. This morning, U.S. District Judge John McConnell Jr. ruled in favor of a group of state attorneys general from 22 Democratic states and the District of Columbia, saying that Trump does not have the authority to freeze funding appropriated by Congress. McConnell issued a preliminary injunction that will stay in place until the case called New York v. Trump works its way through the courts. The injunction applies only in the states that sued, though leaving Republican-dominated states out in the cold. Today, Trump convened his cabinet and, with Musk present, told the secretaries that they and not Musk are in charge of their departments. Trump is also apparently feeling pressure over his tariffs of 25% on goods from Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% on imports from China that went into effect on Tuesday, which economists warned would create inflation and cut economic growth. Today, Trump first said he would exempt car and truck parts from the tariffs, then expanded exemptions to include goods covered by the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement, USMCA. Trump signed in his first term. Administration officials say other tariffs will go into effect at different times in the future. The stock market has dropped dramatically over the past 3 days owing to both the tariffs and the uncertainty over their implementation, but Trump denied his abrupt change had anything to do with the stock market. I am not even looking at the market, Trump said. To Wisconsin, the Tesla company of Elon Musk is contesting a Wisconsin state decision to block Telsa from opening dealerships in apparent retaliation. Musk is pouring money into a Wisconsin Supreme Court race against Susan Crawford, who is a future Wisconsin Supreme Court justice, may rule against Tesla when and if Musk appeals the Tesla dealership block in Wisconsin to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Rozep view Musk is taking a political stance against Susan Crawford, not because of any other rulings. Crawford is expected to take that effect mainly the voters of Wisconsin, but solely because Musk would like to influence the outcome of his own Wisconsin court case. At the least, Rosep has the right to publicize this undemocratic stance of Musk. If in the process of publicizing the undemocratic stance of Musk, entire undemocratic strategies of Musk come to the attention of the general public, Rosep is only better, highlighting the policies that Musk espouses that the public should be warned against. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Wisconsin Public Radio News, March 6, 2025. Politics. Supreme Court. As Musk pours millions into Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Tesla files case that could reach justices. Tesla is suing Wisconsin over a state decision that blocked it from opening dealerships. March 3, 2025. Billionaire Elon Musk is pouring millions of dollars into the Wisconsin Supreme Court race as his electric vehicle company wages a legal fight that could reach the Wisconsin High Court. A political action committee created by Musk has spent more than $25 million on digital advertising, printed brochures, and canvassing efforts in the race, according to a regulatory filing that included payments made between February 19th and February 26th. A conservative nonprofit that the Tesla CEO has contributed to in the past also spent $16 million on TV ads. Musk is backing Waukesha County Judge Brad Schimmel, the conservative candidate in the race and former state attorney general. The April 1st election pits Schimmel against Dane County Judge Susan Crawford, the liberal candidate in the race. The Musk money has helped tip the funding scales in favor of the conservative candidate Schimmel, but it comes as Tesla is suing the state over a decision that prevented the company from opening dealerships in Wisconsin last year. Wisconsin denied the Tesla request for dealer licenses, saying a state law prohibiting manufacturers from owning dealerships. The company had hoped to convert its galleries in Madison and Milwaukee into dealerships, and had additional plans for dealerships in Glendale and the Fox Cities. In January, Tesla sought to overturn the decision. A hearing is scheduled for later in March 2025 on whether the case should remain in Outagamie County or transfer to either Dane or Milwaukee County. The Tesla case could reach the state Supreme Court. The Tesla case could make it to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. If Tesla does not like the circuit court decision, it could appeal the case to the Wisconsin Court of Appeals. After the appeals court, the state Supreme Court would choose whether to take the case. The Wisconsin Code of Judicial Conduct says a judge shall not be required to recuse solely based on an endorsement or on legal campaign contributions. That provision was added in 2010. Musk wants to influence how the state court rules. These are not wild donations, they are calculated. The Wisconsin model of allowing justices to decide whether or not they can be impartial is a fundamental flaw in the system. The Musk campaign spending could be viewed as a conflict of interest for Schimmel if the Tesla case reaches the Supreme Court. If you are on the other side of a case in which the justice received millions of dollars in campaign support from your opponent, would anyone truly believe that they were getting a fair hearing? If the answer to that question is no, as I think it most definitely is, that speaks to the flaw in the system. With the Musk powerful position in the Trump White House, the spending of the tech billionaire in the state Supreme Court race could seek to expand his influence into the courts. Whether an oligarch is conservative or liberal, it is a concern when the oligarchy takes over our politics and our courts. Musk is spending millions of dollars to support the Schimmel campaign after his company sued Wisconsin. A career politician like Schimmel is always for sale to the highest bidder. French President Emmanuel Macron has repeatedly drummed home the message that Europe must be more self-sufficient on defense. Excerpts edited by Rosep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, March 6, 2025. As EU capitals line up behind the message that Europe must guarantee its own security, French President Emmanuel Macron could be forgiven for thinking "I told you so." It is a message Macron has repeatedly drummed home since coming to power in 2017. Europe must be more self-sufficient on defense and break free from dependence on the United States. Today, his stance is being largely vindicated as President Donald Trump seeks a rapprochement with Russia and makes it clear Washington will not indefinitely underwrite European security. Macron is one of a long line of French leaders to be wary of U.S. preeminence in NATO. France, which like Britain has its own nuclear arsenal, has since Charles de Gaulle was leader in the 1960s been more skeptical of the United States. Now that European capitals are reaching a consensus that the United States may not be a reliable partner, many are also conceding that Macron was right. In the words of one diplomat, the 27 leaders of NATO gave the European Commission approval at a summit Thursday, March 6, 2025, to press ahead with plans to mobilize hundreds of billions of euros to boost European defenses as a bulwark against Russia. And a sea change is taking place in Germany, the #1 economy in Europe, which has suggested strict EU spending rules should be changed to allow more long-term defense expenditure. Such talk from Berlin would have been unthinkable a year ago. The autonomy push of Macron was badly received in Berlin. In 2017, the Chancellor in waiting of Germany, Friedrich Merz, who has called for a massive defense surge, could be just the partner the French leader Macron has lacked.
One introduction. Rosep view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue, presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut down and burn tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette View purple air PM2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.